Hey, good evening, everyone. I'm John,
And I'm Josh.
and welcome to Seven City Shop Talk No Quarter, your weekly installment for everything ECU football. Hey, man, ugly win this week, but a win's a win. Can't complain.
Right, a win's a win, and personally, I think that a win is exactly a close win is what we needed. I think that to kind of prove that we can come back a little bit again to ourselves and just make sure that we stay resilient. I think that was a win's a win.
Yeah, that first quarter getting down by 14 points, it seemed like there was no urgency, and that kind of aggravated me at first. But then it you could tell they had that swagger the second quarter, 31 unanswered points. But then it kind of fell apart in the fourth quarter. Something we have to do is learn to finish.
Right, right, and I think uh, so far this season, ECU has shown that they can finish. I will say that I wasn't sure about ECU finishing just off of the previous years that I've seen, and I think this year's finally showing that we can go to the end. We can go
Yeah,
to the end.
the biggest thing I took away from that is that defense shows up when they have to. The crowd made a big difference. I think that was the big difference. I could see us easily. If I only had 25,000 fans there, I could see that easily going the other way.
Right.
But I mean, it is what it is. I hope we have a good crowd this week. But I give a lot of props to the crowd for that game. A lot of props to our defense too. I know they gave up a ton of yards and stuff against a weaker Division II school, but they came through when they needed to. Pick sixes, getting to the quarterback who was elusive. I'd love to see that kid somewhere in D1, but
Yeah.
you know, here's what it was. I said if we barely won, I wouldn't panic. If we blew them out, I wouldn't be too overexcited, and that's where we are. But if you told me at the beginning of the year we'd be 2-2 going to conference play, I'd take it in a heartbeat. And I think a lot of other fans would. I think the frustration comes from we could easily be 3-1 going in, but it is what it is. I was happy that we made it through pre-conference without too many bang up injuries. Lost a couple of key guys, but now the real grind begins.
Yeah. I think that one thing for me that I'm kind of looking at for ECU is how will not fully resting for at least a game Elijah Morris is going to come into play later on in the season. I mean, I get that he wanted to play, he wanted to come out, and I mean this week he didn't have a. It wasn't anything with the injury. It was a cramp, and when he was attended to. But how much will not having him rest this at least for one game is going to play later on?
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. And just two, it was tough because I was hoping that would be the game that we would be able to see some of our two deep guys, some of our backup players, and see what they could do. It just didn't pan out that way. I mean, but it just is what it was. But I'm just looking at the final stats again right now. We gave up 540 yards, 409 of that through the air, 131 on the ground. Um, about if you solely looked at the stats, you'd thought we got blown out in the game, but we did enough to win, and that's the big takeaway.
Right, right. Yeah, I think just keeping the main thing, wins and losses. That's what gives people jobs. So I think that's
Yeah,
really
the
the
one
biggest.
the one bright spot I'll take is the just a red zone efficiency 2 for 3. We did have that pick in the end zone. That happens. Sacks. I was looking for that. I know we had 5 sacks, and so something to work on. But I just think Holt Nailers, he was 17 for 26, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. I mean, room for improvement, but he did enough to get the win, and that's what I'm excited about. Um, I still like the receiving core, spreading the ball around. Sneed 4 catches, Johnson 3 catches, Amatosho 3 catches, Harris out of the backfield. Was surprised that Calhoun didn't get more catches his way or tosses his way, but he did enough to get a win. So I'm excited.
Right. Yeah, that's the one thing that I kind of took away was Shane Calhoun had that one catch, and I mean it put us in really good scoring position. But yeah, just his lack of involvement, really all the tight ends lack of involvement in the game. But I personally think that's a little bit of a good thing that we didn't. I feel like the playbook was a little bit more condensed this game than it has been, outside of the Mason Garcia play.
Yeah.
And so and so if a team like Tulsa wants to look at the most recent film, they aren't going to have much to go off of in
Yeah,
terms of
I'm
the
sorry.
last thing installed.
Yeah, and on that Mason Garcia play, I said that. I said, man, that's something for. I was scared that was going to be more heavy in the second half, and I've been saying it for weeks now. Hey, put Mason out there on the field with Holton and see what we can do. But I think it's enough of a wrinkle in the game last week that Tulsa or Tulane has to look at it and prepare for it, but not enough for them to know fully what he's capable of. I really
Right.
hope to see that more in the coming days. I think they wanted to put it out there to give it a try before conference. I'd love to see that look again. It was funny because, it was a 3-yard run, but it looked well designed. I don't know how it looked from the stands, but that end, the end zone, I'm on the other end. I have to watch it on TV. It looked well drawn up. Everything worked out. 3-yard scamper in the end zone. I hope to see more of that. Garcia is quick, and Holton Ahlers is quick too. I'd love to see more of a ground game from the quarterbacks, but I'm a big fan of them being on the field at the same time.
Yeah, and I really think that Holton has shown over his time at ECU that he is a quarterback, but it's not like he cannot go out and make plays other places.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I think that anytime that we can on a 4th and 1, go ahead and just have Mason and Holton in there, have them shoulder to shoulder, and then at the last second, one person motions out. Quick little swing pass type thing, just all those kinds of wrinkles that we can add. But I mean, I'm not at the point of saying, put Mason Garcia in if we're down by 14.
Yeah, I just like just the wrinkle in the offense, just something that other teams had to prepare for and keep in the back of their mind. I'd love to see him run out there and even go off into like the slot receiver position just to throw him off, just to open the middle of the field up for your Tyler Sneads to come across, or to maybe run a reverse and just have him where you could have him throw a back pass and a pass. But I think it opens the playbook up. I think I agree with you 100% that we don't want to give everything away before conference, but I think we're going to see a few different looks from ECU this week.
Yeah. So what are you expecting to see out of ECU this week? What are your expectations coming off of last game?
We were talking about before. It's such a hard thing to get. ECU is such a roller coaster. It seems like that. We have a bad, terrible first half against Marshall. Not first half. First drive against Marshall. Then we look great and hang with them. Then we get down. Then we're back. We get down against Charleston Southern, come storming back 31 points, then give up more points. I'm just hoping for consistency. I think if we can play consistent, then we'd have a shot against them. But Tulane's a weird monster too. They're up and down. Like we were saying earlier, that Tulane could easily be 3-1 this season, but they're 1-3 coming into the game. So I mean, I don't know. I'm looking for a big game. I'm hoping for a big crowd. I'm a big fan of 3:30 starts. I don't know how you are. I know the band probably doesn't love it, but I'm excited for 3:30 start. I think we'll have a huge crowd. I think it'll be just enough time to get your tailgating out and get in your seats. And I'm hoping for a big power victory to start the conference.
Yeah, me too. I think I don't really have the same view on how good I think Tulane is. I think that Tulane to me is a lot like ECU, where they just aren't consistent yet. But I think that when they have been consistent, it's just been a string of bad. I think that's really what it's been. I mean, because if you take, for instance, the entire Ole Miss game, just about, and then you take the beginning of the UAB game, those two games don't look too much different. And to lose to UAB at home, it's not like UAB isn't 3-1, but UAB, they were able to hold Georgia, kind of hold Georgia to 56, and they scored 7. But I mean, UAB isn't, to me, they aren't a team that's really knocking people out of their socks either.
Yeah, in that first game of the year against Oklahoma, they look like world beaters storming back. I thought they were going to pull it off at the end, and they turned around and I can't remember what it was. They turned around and scored 69 points the next week, and I'm thinking, oh man, this team's dangerous. And then they get shellacked by Mississippi, Ole Miss, and they get the home loss to UAB, and now all of a sudden you're like, who are we looking at here? And so I'm interested to see who shows up for them. But I think it's a make or break game for them too. They got Houston and SMU and Cincinnati coming up. Then I mean their schedule is just as tough as ours, but that's a daunting 3 games. They're going to be hungry for a win to start their conference season off too.
Oh yeah, and I definitely feel like for them, their best chance at creating any kind of positivity for the season would be beating us, because I don't think that they have another winnable game until Tulsa in the middle of November, and then after that they have only one more winnable game, in my opinion, for them. So at most they might win 4 games this season. And to be honest with you, I feel like most Tulsa fans probably feel like ECU fans of 2017 and 2016, when you beat great team or teams that you shouldn't be beating, like a Chapel Hill or an NC State, but then you lose to teams that you shouldn't be beating, like a JMU and a North Carolina A&T. So it's like, I think that for them, I do think that I think that this game is going to be a loss for them. I just think this game won't be in their favor.
Yeah, and I will say for Tulane, they do have the greatest, in my opinion, the greatest turnover sideline award in college football is their Mardi Gras bead, the oversized one. I think that's great for their school. I don't know, it just makes me smile every time I see it on the sideline. But yeah, just watching the highlights here, I do think they have fast receivers. They got just like I said against Marshall, they got a quarterback that can do enough. But their offensive line just seems like they look like giants the one week, and then they can't stop anything the next week. It's tough, almost even like half to half. They in the first half or the first quarter against Oklahoma here, they looked great, and then it fell apart for them, and then they somehow put it back together. So I don't know. It's a tough read.
Yeah, but I to me, Tulsa, they remind me so much of ECU the past few years right now, just because if you look at some of these highlight players, I mean, my bad, Tulane. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah. I'm making sure I'm not mishearing
you. Yeah. It's like their secondary plays a lot like how our secondary was playing for a while there, where it was just like you get beat and you get beat bad. Like, but it's just I don't know. I really hope that Tulane is a favorite right now. And I feel like they shouldn't be. I don't feel like they should be.
The line opened up where I saw it at -4, and I think the last time I looked was -2. And that, to me, 1 or 2 points isn't a huge swing, but when the line's already that tight, that's a pretty big swing to me. I would not be surprised to see it at 1 point on game day. And just because of the UNC game a couple years ago on the beautiful sunset and the 70 points, I love being a 1-point underdog at home to anybody. It just gives me that vibe. But I wouldn't be surprised to see it go down to 1 point. But at the same time, I look at and not to beat a dead horse. God bless the boy, Holton Ahlers. It kind of comes down to him. What's he going to look like in the to start the game? Are they going to try to keep him reserve? Are they going to open the playbook? Are they going to let him run? I just don't know. Is he going to be able to have the time to find his receivers? Are they going to be able to get separation? The little bit I've watched of Tulane, it seems like they have, their defense is decent, but I feel like we could have I feel like especially Tyler Snead could have a big game against their secondary.
Yeah. So, speaking of their secondary, what are some things that you have to watch for Tulane this week?
Just if I'm a Tulane fan, I'm hoping to keep everything in front of me for the secondary. Like you said a minute ago, when they get beat bad. I mean, they look like I shouldn't say this, but they look like a high school team that is just there to get a game in sometimes. Like they just look like lost ball high weeds sometimes. And then other times they play competitive. But I think some of that comes down to the competition they play. Oklahoma obviously has some world class talent. Ole Miss has some great talent, but UAB sure didn't. I hate to say it that way, but I'm looking at the UAB stats, and if UAB could play Tulane every week, they would be world beaters. No one had a huge game, but 60. I'm looking at the receiving core: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different players with passes, 65, 65, 23. But they did enough. They made big plays when they needed to. Their highest receiver, number 20, 10 yards a catch, 6 yards, 65 yards. I mean, that's not world beating numbers, but they given up so much more to Ole Miss. This game was terrible. I remember watching this game and thinking, why am I punishing myself? But I don't know. I always try. I have a soft spot in my heart for conference teams and non-conference games, but that was tough. That was a tough game.
Yeah, I definitely think that would have been one of those games. I think that game was one that might show Tulane's true colors for the season. And that's just, especially with the teams that they're about to play. I just think that's kind of just a foretell of, all right, now when we play G5 schools, this is how we'll be.
Yeah, and that's tough, and I hate to put it on it, but it's just tough. I will say their running backs were world class too, and this is what I'm talking about too. Tulane almost had some signs of life early. They got diced up a little bit, and the quarterback was under pressure, but they gave him some time early, but it just falls apart. So I'm hoping if ECU can get to the quarterback, which we really had a difficult time with last week, then I think we have a real shot of forcing some turnovers, forcing some mistakes. But if we give them time back there in the pocket and give them some confidence, it's going to be a long day for ECU.
Oh yeah, But for me, what I'm looking for out of Tulane is their pass rush going to be is their pass rush really going to be better than ECU's offensive line? I mean,
Yeah.
ECU's O line isn't. They aren't bad. I mean, they really aren't bad. They've got good technique. It's just about being a better cohesive group, and just probably a few things with communication that could probably improve. But to me, our offensive line is a really strong group this year, compared to other years and other positions.
I'm really trying to rack my brain. Maybe you can help me. Did we have any holding calls on the offensive line against Charleston Southern?
This past week, no, we did not.
Yeah,
Not that I can think of. Not on the offensive line.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. To me, they've improved every week, and it sucks so hard. I hate to say it like that, but it's just terrible the way that game panned out, because they looked dominant for 2.5 quarters. After they gave after Charleston Southern went by 14, the offensive line looked just fantastic. Letting Holton do whatever he wanted to do, letting our running backs do whatever they wanted to do, and then it just kind of, hey, we're up by a lot. Second half, let's take the foot off the gas, and that was frustrating. So that's my fear. Is last year I looked at the game last year, down big early. I think it was 31-7 at halftime. We came storming back in the second half, make it respectable. We'll call it that. I think it was. Can't remember the final score. It was 21-37, I believe. But I don't know. It's a tough game. It was when I thought we had a shot at. I'm looking back now too. I think because if I say the score was something, it's definitely going to be wrong, and someone's going to tell me I'm wrong. But let's see. Let's see. I do remember
38-21.
And I remember I'm looking at ECU schedule right now. I remember how that we were coming off that insane Tulsa Thursday night game debacle, and oh my gosh, that was a terrible mindset to go into a game with. And I thought we played great in the second half after we got over ourselves in the first half, but that was a tough game, and I'm afraid I never know what ECU is going to pull out. Are we going to have that same look? Are we going to come out there and say, "Oh my gosh, we got shell shocked against, um, Charleston Southern a little bit. But we came out with the win." Are they going to come out focused and ready to roll? I just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, from last year's pass rush. They didn't really looking at the stats. It doesn't look like they were doing too much more to us other than just passing the ball well and running the ball well. Um, and our defense is markedly better this year. So,
that
so
is an understatement.
I definitely think that the ECU has all the chance in the world to pull this one off.
Yeah, I was talking to a buddy the other day, and I said that if we could take ECU's offense, the 10-win season, Ruffins, I think it was second to last year, even with this defense, I still think we win 8 games. You know what I'm saying? And if you told me the same thing last year, give me that offense with the defense last year, I'd say, man, I'd be so happy to get to 5 games. But I feel like they are, I foresee us to having more wins this year. Our schedule's a little bit tough. Maybe we don't get as many wins, but I'm really optimistic for 6 wins, and that's a huge step forward. And I'd put a lot of that on the defense.
Oh yeah, and I think that for me personally, we have to win the games that we can win. Like, by all means, give your best at the Cincinnati's, the Houston, but the ones that you can win, those are the ones that you have to win. Like make sure that there's no doubt as to where the top of the conference and the bottom of the conference is. Because I mean, if you think about it, Tulane, Navy, Tulane, Temple, and
South Florida.
South Florida are gonna be vying for that middle of this conference, position this year, and that position is going to carry a lot of weight going into recruiting, going into next year, and looking forward into conference realignment. I mean, if we can start working our way back to the top half of this conference, that can only do good things for us.
Absolutely, and I'm thinking, just diving off that, I'm looking at ECU's schedule too. Tulane, then UCF, then Houston. You get a win here, I think your confidence is up. I'm not saying we're going to beat UCF or Houston, but we are always prime every year to win one of these games we have no business in. And I think if we get a win against Tulane, then we could very well be upset-minded on the road at either UCF or Houston. Houston, in my mind, a little bit more daunting. UCF with their quarterback issues, but that's a hard place to play on the road. But maybe you get that confidence. But if you beat Tulane, and that sets you up for all you got to do is beat South Florida, Temple, and Navy, and you're right there. But, it's a huge pivotal game. And in the last couple of years, these games I think we're ready to take that step forward. These are the games we can win. We always seem to lay the goose egg. So I don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, I think this is something that I really want to point out about the UCF game. And this is kind of getting ahead a little bit, but just a little preview on what you're going to hear from me next week. The way that they came back against Boise State, that's all well and fine. And it looked like it was a great game. Looked like UCF was really making their point, right? Bethune-Cookman, okay, you're supposed to beat them. You're supposed to eat your food. Louisville, okay, cool. You guys lose, but not by a whole bunch. You lose by
that game.
Yeah, you're in that game. Louisville, it turns out to still be first in the Atlantic Division of the ACC. So it is what it is. You have a week off, and then you're playing at an 0-3 team again. So coming into ECU, your real tests were only Louisville and the first game of the season against Boise. And in both games, you had your star quarterback. I think we win this game. I think we win this game against Tulane. It's sky's the limit the next week. And I think that game is what's really going to tell us what ECU is about.
If we win this game against Tulane, that is a big if. If we win this game against Tulane, I would not be shocked to be maybe a 7-point road dog against UCF.
Right.
They might make them 10 just because of the play. And the bounce house is a crazy place to play. Don't get me wrong. If you come out of there with a win, I don't care who you are, that's a good deal. But I wouldn't be shocked for ECU to only be a 7-point underdog. And can you win that game? Sure. We saw we did at Marshall. That was a great atmosphere. That's a good test for us. But I don't know. This game seems to really set the table for the rest of the season. If we can come out of here with a win, then we will be where we need to be to make a bowl game this year.
Oh,
and
yeah.
maybe and possibly do more. Maybe finish in the top 5. Maybe enhance that bowl game a little bit. But I would go to the Bubba's Fish Mart Bowl at this point. I could care less. I don't even know what they are. The lowest tier bowl there is. I'd be on the road going to probably end up in Mobile, Alabama. But
the worst thing about the quote unquote lowest tiered bowl is that it's in the Bahamas. So you gotta have a passport to get to that bowl game.
Man. I don't know about my passport situation. I'm just kidding. But that's a good point. But I would see, just for my selfishness, I would love to be in the military bowl because it's the choicest drive for me.
Yeah, I understand. Hey, the Myrtle Beach Bowl is just good enough for me. The Myrtle Beach Bowl.
That's not a bad one either. I wouldn't complain about a weekend at the beach either.
Yeah.
But knowing our luck, it'd be the Hawaii Bowl out. Y'all have fun at that game and tell me how it was, But.
Right. Yeah.
So, do you want to make a score prediction for Tulane?
Oh yeah, I'll make a score prediction. I want to go second though.
I'll say I want to get my notes up on my phone so when I make this prediction, I won't forget it later. So, if you recall, I said we were going to win ECU 31-28 against App State. That was very wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I picked us to beat South Carolina. Very, very wrong. I picked us, and then I got on to I'm going to pick against ECU for the mojo. I picked Marshall. That worked out. We didn't make a score prediction. I said we either blow them out or who cares? Don't worry about it last week. So this week, let me type it in. I'm going to say just to keep with my trend of picking against ECU. I'm going to go with against ECU, but the score I think it's going to be for ECU win. But kind of to jinx it, knock on wood. But I want to say ECU falls. I think it's going to be a higher scoring game, just depending on which Tulane team shows up because they put a lot of points up against Oklahoma, against Morgan State and other teams. But I think it's going to be a 35-31 ECU loss is what I'm going to go with. I'm going to write that down so that no one can say I didn't keep it.
Okay. So my approach is this. How good is Oklahoma's defense compared to ECU's defense?
That's super true.
And then I'm looking, okay, you got Ole Miss's defense versus ECU's defense, and then UAB's defense versus ECU's defense. Because against Oklahoma, they scored 35. Against Ole Miss, they scored 21, but against UAB, they also only scored 21.
That's a good point.
So for me, I'm like, okay, our defense is better than UAB. Our defense is not nearly as good as Ole Miss, but our defense is probably comparable to Oklahoma, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go ECU, and this is mainly because ECU has not been super efficient on offense, but ECU 35, Tulane 21-28.
Okay.
That's my thing. 21-28. I think ECU's defense could allow an extra touchdown, but I don't see their offense. I don't see their offense as being as efficient as Marshall's, and I don't think that they are as efficient as Appalachian State. I don't think that I think that they won't show up better than Charleston Southern showed up last week.
Yeah, and that was their Super Bowl. I will give them that. Right. They showed up and did it. I think we're on the same page with 35 for ECU. You don't understand how tickled pink I'd be if we won 35-21. They might accidentally burn down the college if they the party would be so intense. But I don't know. Like I just think every time I get my hopes up that we're taking that step, I get dashed. But I think this is the game that we could step up and make that step forward.
Yeah, I think that this game we can definitely step forward and kind of take our place in the conference as not one of the four making their exodus, but one of the ones who's going to be leading the next generation of the American Conference.
It's a pivotal game. It really is, and not to beat that dead horse, but I mean, from recruiting standpoint, from just feel good standpoint, for confidence standpoint, a lot of good things can come from a win. A blowout loss is going to really set you back. A close loss, I think, is in the same boat. Hey, man, you build on that. You say, hey, we're right there with this team. We can keep moving. But I just hope, I've really prayed that we don't have one of those 44-13 inexplicable collapses that we're known to have to at some point. So, but I don't know. I feel good about this game. I feel better than I did 3 weeks ago about this game.
Yeah, I definitely feel much better than I did especially after South Carolina. I definitely feel much better about this game. Definitely feel much better.
And I would say, and we were talking about it when we were watching the Marshall game live. I really do think that's the turning point. I know we gave up way too much to Charleston Southern, but it's a win. It's a win in a situation that in years past might have gone the wrong way. And so, are we making those steps? Sure. Did we let our foot off the gas? Sure. And what you were saying too, like in Oklahoma, they scored 35 points, but how many is that? Oklahoma's up by a ton and thinking, hey, this is over.
Right.
Whatever. How much of the 21 points is, hey, this is over. Let's put in, someone else. But we'll see. I'm excited. And it's homecoming. And I love wearing purple. So I'll be in my element.
Yeah.
Those things always, I'm a bigger fan of painting it purple than painting it gold. I think it looked good, though. That was a good look for ECU last week.
Oh, yeah. I think for me, painted black is always going to be my favorite, especially because it's always at a night game, Thursday night game most times. Painted purple's second, can't miss with purple. But the one thing I want ECU to do, hey, ECU, if you see this is a call for you. Stripe the stadium again. I think
that was good.
NC State, that went so well, and I think that is something that I would love to see that again. And ECU, if you want to know when to do that, it would probably be September 3rd, 2022, when NC State comes back. I think that'd be another good time to do that.
Send that to good old Eric. But dude, that is something that needs to be reserved for the NC State Wolfpack. I think that would be the perfect time for it.
Yeah, NC State and UNC only.
Yeah, if I would love, and I saw, I think it was Texas A&M did the red, white, and blue.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was pretty cool, but the stripes was awesome. That was a good deal. So hopefully they'll do that. I would love to see a new colored scheme uniform, but our equipment guys do a heck of a job, so I can't really complain. But I'd love to see it. And the more I think about it, I think you're right. The more I'd like to see the yellow top, the gold top, gold
especially
pants.
after last week. Especially after last week with the gold on top of the yellow. The gold on top, the purple on top of the gold.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I really want to see that.
I think an all gold pant and top with the chrome purple helmets would be something awesome.
Oh yeah,
that would be my vote, but I don't get a vote, so I think we'll have to call Adidas and see what they can do.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Maybe that would be a cool thing for a bowl game. Maybe that's what they're holding it for. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
So on that, real quick, what do you still feel good about a bowl?
I definitely still feel good about a bowl. I feel like if you were to ask me right now, I would say we got 2 wins already. We only got to win 4 more. UCF, Temple, Navy, automatic. That's the 5 right there. And this is why this Tulane game, to me, we just have to win. Because, we can beat Tulane. We could possibly beat UCF. Off of a bye week, we might be able to beat Houston.
Yeah.
So I'm like, we're anywhere from 5 games for sure to maybe 6 or 7 or 8. And that's just how I feel. I mean, that's so I definitely think they were still a bowl team.
Yeah, and I'm watching Houston too. This just because they struggled with Navy, and then they hadn't had a test, before that. So I don't know, like that game's one too that I have circled with a question mark. Hey, this could be it. Last year was the SMU game that was that staple win. Is it Houston this year? Is it UCF this year? I'd be tickled pink. I would be just over the moon to win either one of those games. Lose both of those games, I'm still totally fine. Just
Yeah.
It is what it is. But I don't know. Hope for the best.
Yeah, hope for the best. Yeah. I mean, Memphis is beatable.
I feel,
Yeah.
and I know maybe it's that Marshall high still maybe, but I feel like we can beat anybody if you just get us to the fourth quarter in striking distance.
Exactly. That's what it is. Yeah.
We'll see. Donnie K opens up the playbook and go for it. We'll see.
Oh yeah.
All right, man. Well, if nothing else, we'll sign off for this week, and we'll see you after the game. And go Pirates!
All right, go Pirates! Make sure you guys come out to the stadium this week and get in your seats early. I like that we got in our seats early last week. It made that much more of a difference to start the game, even though the Pirates didn't prove it. But hey, come get in your seats early.
Yeah, and take your computer or however you do it and just stream the game at home so we get the viewers that way too. Do it both. Just go to the game and leave your computer on.
Oh yeah. All right, guys. Have a good one.
Have a good one.